A tax freight train is bearing down on your retirement. To protect yourself, you'll have to harness the power of zero.
Hi there, this is David McKnight. Welcome to the Power of Zero show. Grateful that you're back for another week. Hope you're managing your shelter-in-place scenario with grace and dignity. As I speak to you, by the time you hear this, I will have been sheltering in place for almost 6 weeks and am acclimating quite well to these new circumstances. I hope you are doing likewise. I am the best-selling author of The Power of Zero, Look Before You LIRP, The Volatility Shield, which is a financial novella, so it's in story format, as well as the upcoming book, which I have just completed, and it is getting slated for publishing in the first part of November. That's called Tax-Free Income for Life. It shows you how to mitigate both tax rate risk and longevity risk, the two greatest risks that are likely to upset your financial apple cart in retirement. If you're looking for a Power Zero advisor, you can head on over to davidmcknight.com and we will hook you up with the very, very best in the country. If you are looking to transition your practice to a Power Zero style practice, you can head over to powerofzero.com, opt into the free video series, and we would be happy to have a chat with you. Okay. I'm excited about today's topic. Remember, all of my topics generally come from people asking me questions or just these various poignant issues, timely issues that pop up either in the news or over the course of a planning scenario or what have you. These are the things that sort of stoke my imagination as far as podcast fodder goes. And this is one that came up today as I was on a call with 50 or 60 advisors who are part of a weekly webinar that I put on. And basically the question was, should a single person own an LIRP? If so, in what circumstances? Well, the answer to a lot of these questions is it depends, okay? I can think of a lot of scenarios in which a single person would not need to have life insurance, but let's talk about some scenarios in which a single person would want to have life insurance. Now, the first thing that we always have to reiterate is that the primary purpose for which someone has life insurance is for a death benefit. If we forget that all-important detail, the IRS will start taking these types of tax-free vehicles away from us. We have to remember the primary motivation for having life insurance is a death benefit. However, there are some very, very close seconds. So if having a death benefit is 1A, I would say 1B is the following. Even if you feel like there isn't somebody that would necessarily be worse off for your having died, in other words, they have an insurable interest in you, there is a very, very close second, and that is if you plan on using the insurance, the death benefit proceeds in advance of your death for the purpose of paying for long-term care. This is something that I talk about frequently in all of my books, but pay particular attention, pay particular homage in my latest book, The Volatility Shield, in which I describe two scenarios. One in which you get to manage your long-term care in a setting of your choosing, or managing your long-term care in a setting of the government's choosing. Now, I'd like to quote Tom Hegna. He's a friend of mine and expert, a retirement expert, one of the leading retirement experts in the nation. He says, look, I have so much long-term care insurance. So he's so sort of armed to the gills with long-term care insurance that should the unthinkable happen, should he end up needing long-term care insurance, he can really call the shots. He can have that long-term care performed in his very own house. Now, why would you want to do something like that? Because you live, studies show, quite a bit longer if you have long-term care in your home, if you're enabled to stay in an environment that's comfortable to you. The alternative is if you don't have long-term care is that you get to go, first of all, you get to go into spend down. You burn through all of your assets, as a single guy, all the way down to $2,500. And at that point, you qualify for Medicaid. Now, Medicaid is not something you really want to qualify for, because if you have to go into a Medicaid-funded facility, then this is a facility of the government's choosing, and there's typically a wide disparity between the care that you might receive in a Medicaid-funded facility versus one paid for as a result of benefits paid out from your long-term care policy, or preferably from your LIRP. Because remember what happens here is the LIRP, should you no longer be able to do 2 of 6 activities of daily living, they will, and you can find one doctor to write one letter to that effect, they will allow you to take 25% of that death benefit in advance of your death and spend it each and every year for 4 years. Now, they may discount that number slightly based on your age in which you received the benefit, but the point is this: they're willing to give you your death benefit while you're alive for the purpose of paying for long-term care. This is a really big deal, and more we're seeing that people are over age 50, really from 50 to 65, in some cases 50 to 70. This is one of the real reasons why they're getting LIRPs, is because they want to be able to pay for long-term care. And I've obviously talked about that a lot on all my different podcasts, but that's the first reason why a single person might want to have an LIRP, because they want to call the shots in retirement when it comes to long-term care. They want that long-term care in their home. They don't want to have to go to a Medicaid-funded facility because they burn through all their assets and have nothing left at the end, and then are forced into a Medicaid-funded facility. The second reason, we've talked about this in past podcasts, that you might want to have a life insurance policy, even if you're single, is because you may have an IRA, you may have so much money in your IRA that you won't spend it during your lifetime, and you want to be able to pass that on the most efficient way to the next generation, and you want to be able to call the shots from the grave. How do you do this? Well, you can't really do it if you're passing either an IRA or a Roth IRA on to the next generation, because essentially, if you want to control how that money gets spent from the grave, the IRS really doesn't allow you to do it, because they're going to force they're going to force your beneficiaries to spend this money down in the first 10 years. Well, not spend it down, but pay tax on it in the first 10 years, or take it out of that Roth IRA, for example, and put it in their savings account, at which point the IRS starts to force you to pay tax on all that interest. Now, you may be thinking, well, why not just put that money into some sort of a trust, let the trust call the shots? Well, guess what? The new retirement laws in our country stipulate that even if that money is in a trust, you must spend it down in those first 10 years. So it overrides the language of the trust, so you can no longer really control. Whereas a trust can be an owner and a beneficiary of a life insurance policy, so the language of that trust can therefore determine when that money gets spent out. All right, the third reason why you might consider having life insurance as a single person is that you want your money to grow safely and productively. A lot of times we come across people that have money in a money market, or in a savings account, or in a CD, because they want their money to stay safe. The problem is there's no productivity associated with the growth of that money. So what I often recommend is a type of LIRP that allows you to link the growth account is linked to the upward movement of a stock market index. Whatever that stock market index does, you get to keep up to a cap. Should that stock market index ever go down in any given year, you simply get credited a zero. Historically, this is going to net you between 5 and 6% after fees. So guess what, folks? If you've got a lot of money sitting in a money market or a CD or a savings account or a brokerage account, and you can get 5 to 6% without taking any more risks than what you're accustomed to taking in a savings account, well, gosh, I think that's a pretty safe and productive way to grow at least a portion of your money. Well, what this also allows you to do is it allows you, as I've said in past podcasts, to allow that LIRP to serve as sort of the bond portion of your portfolio, except you're doing so with less risk than a typical bond. So you can put money into your LIRP that sort of assumes the role of the bonds in your portfolio, only you don't have the risks, the traditional risks of a bond. So what this will allow you to do is either have the same portfolio while lowering your standard deviation, or have the same portfolio with less risk. If you have too much money sitting in your taxable bucket, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you amortize those inefficiencies out over a lifetime, it could cost you a couple $100,000. Why not recapture all that inefficiency? Why not recapture those dollars that would have otherwise gone towards taxes? Dump them into your LIRP, let a portion of those dollars drip out to go towards expenses, but then keep the rest of them and get something useful in exchange for it, which is a death benefit that doubles as long-term care and tax-free growth on the rest of that money. We've also talked about no contribution limits with a traditional Roth IRA. You can only put in $7,000 per year, times 2 if you're married. With the LIRP, we've seen folks do $50 a month, $200,000 per year, and everywhere in between. So really, we're not forging into any new territory here. We're simply saying that some of these benefits that we've talked about as it relates to the LIRP all along are still very, very useful and relevant to a single person. I'm going to bring this full circle and remind you that all of these things are important, but probably of all the things I've discussed so far, the thing that is most important for the single person who's contemplating getting an LIRP is this idea that you can get your death benefit in advance of your death for the purpose of paying for long-term care. That's a really, really big deal. If you feel like you are perfectly okay burning through all of your, a lifetime's worth of savings and then going into a Medicaid funded facility, maybe do a little research on Medicaid funded facilities. Maybe visit the Medicaid funded facility in your neighborhood and see what you think about it. And then start to research some places, some avenues that might open up to you were you to have a vehicle that enabled you to spend your death benefit in advance of your death for a long-term care facility that was a little bit more upscale or that gave you the opportunity to get that care in your home. One other thing that I left out is the no income limitations. This idea that with the LIRP, it allows a single person who might normally make more than what they could put into the Roth IRA, make an income limit that prevented them from putting money into a Roth IRA, allow them to put money into a tax-free vehicle like the LIRP that gives them the benefit of an unlimited bucket of tax-free dollars. All right, folks, that is the show for today. I appreciate you guys all being with me week after week after week. I'm grateful for your allegiance, and I'm grateful that you are willing to explore these important concepts, particularly in light of everything we've seen with the COVID-19 stimulus and what that's going to do to tax rates, how it's causing the tax rate train to accelerate and increase the likelihood that tax rates are going to be much higher, much, much sooner. Again, if you would like to follow me on Twitter, it's @McKnight&Co, @McKnight&Co. And of course, as always, we love it when you put reviews on Amazon or on iTunes for either our books or our podcast. And finally, once again, please subscribe. You'll get an email every week alerting you to the fact that our podcast is ready. They'll even let you know what it's about. All right, folks, appreciate you being with us, and we will look forward to talking to you same time next week.